Hi guys. So today we are starting our last day of trig identities. It looks like a lot, but it's actually not going to be as bad because we're not going to do the same types of things with them. Also, a lot of these we're actually going to break down to be a little bit simpler as well. So the first little section we're going to look at is what are called cofunction identities. So every function has a cofunction. So when I think of cofunction, I want you to think of complement, like complementary angles, ones that add up to 90. So sine and cosine are cofunctions. What that means is that the cosine of an angle is the same thing as the sine of that angle's complement. So if two angles add up to 90, the sine of one is equal to the cosine of one. This is actually something that you know. For example, you know that the cosine of 30 is the same as the sine of 60. You know that the cosine of 45 is the same as the sine of 45. And you might not have known it, but the sine of 20 then would be the same thing as the cosine of 70, because 20 and 70 add up to 90. So that's what those cofunction properties mean. They add up to 90. So tangent and cotangent are cofunctions. And then cosecant and secant are cofunctions. Even and odd is also pretty simple. There are two trig functions that are even. Now you may have talked about even and odd functions in Algebra 2. I think we talked about them a little bit at the beginning of this year. An even function means basically what you see right here, where cosine of negative x is the same thing as just cosine of x. Because it's an even function, you can actually just get rid of that negative and have the same thing. So that means that the cosine of negative 30 is the same thing as the cosine of 30. The secant of negative pi over 3 is the same thing as the secant of pi over 3. So those are the two even functions. The other functions are odd. So what the odd functions mean, the negative doesn't just go away, but what you can do is take the negative and move it to the outside. Okay, so those are your odd functions. So cosine and secant are even, and your other functions are odd. Okay, so now your other functions, or the other identities we're going to look at are these sum and difference ones. Now, these ones there's a lot of them to look at, but don't worry, you'll be given the formulas. What I want you guys to really pay attention to here, though, is the fact that you cannot distribute a trig function to the argument. We've talked about this kind of a lot this year. For example, if you have the log of x plus y, we couldn't distribute that and say it's log x plus log y. Okay, that didn't work. Because, again, the argument is part of the log. It's not log times that, it's the log of that. It's all included to be the same thing. Trig functions work the same way. Just like when we had the sine of a multiplied by 15, we couldn't say that that was the sine of 15a. Okay, that was not equivalent because the a was part of sine. It's all together as one thing. So that's why we need these sum and difference properties. So if you have the sine of something plus something, if you want to actually take that and expand it, you have to use this big, long formula here. And that's what we're going to do a little bit of today. So you've got sine plus a plus b, sine a minus b, tangent a plus b, and we'll use all of these here in a little bit.